Coy Jandreau here with Seth Green. We are at Golden Apple Comics in Hollywood in the heart of Melrose.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I love seeing people innovate with both style and aesthetics. And I grabbed a book that I thought looked interesting.
And we are here to do some comic book shopping.
Let's do this.
Excited?
Yes, I am.
You're naturals. So we're in a comic book store.
And we're not having any fun at
No
all.
fun.
Yeah.
Judging solemn, horrible times.
Yes, really harsh critique.
You know, growing up, when you were reading comics, you were on tons of sets, commercial, TV, film. How did you find time and what did you do to get comics in your life?
I started reading comics because I traveled back and forth on the trains from Philadelphia to New York for auditions. My mom and I were walking past some guy on the street with a blanket. He was just selling books and comics. And I grabbed a book that I thought looked interesting. It was a Fantastic Four. I read it on the train and was just gripped by it. And then it's a to be continued. So I had to find the next issue, and it was the run where Franklin Richards gets possessed and becomes like a super cosmic demon.
That's what a great, like, for a first book to read as a kid on a train, literally, like, this is the world I can live in.
And I had to know how it ended, so I got hooked.
Now, Spider-Man, why does he speak to you the most? Like, I know we're both Spidey guys. Like,
Yeah.
you picked him up early.
I always loved the fact that Spider-Man was just a kid and had to do normal kid stuff like graduate or get bullied or rise above all of that and then keep this responsibility a secret and didn't really have any obligation to anybody. And so that's always spoken to me.
So we're gonna actually live in Spider-Man for this first pull. I have some books right here for you. Chip Zdarsky is new to the Spider-Man game, but this is where he first started up. This is the classic feeling Spider-Man. It's got a Silver Age flavor.
I read a ton of Peter Parker's.
So when Peter Parker ended at like around 288 back in the day, they brought it back and renumbered these. So these are the return of that exact same run. So you've got the weird side character of Peter Parker's sister that's mentioned once, and the art is a mix of Silver Age classic, and then you've got some all red in here.
That's
Beautiful.
awesome.
And then finally, Chip Zdarsky, who is these guys here, is writing a comic that takes place every decade if Spider-Man actually aged. And it's Mark Bagley, who did the Ultimate Spider-Man run, and 1966 with the characters turns into 1972, and now he's 30. But none of the canon is sacred. And things happen in this issue, like Flash goes to Nam. So these things tie into the time, and then they break your heart in all new ways. So these are our first books.
Thanks.
Let's do it, man.
Right on.
You voiced probably more superheroes than anyone.
Really?
Through the realm of like Robot Chicken and playing, like you've
that's
also
fair.
been, like, for me, Rick Jones is such a slept-on character.
Oh, sweet.
Rick Jones is like the guy.
That was the best phone call I got. Jeff Loeb was like, hey, do you want to play Rick Jones on this Hulk show? And I was like, yeah, obviously.
What's a character you think slept on in the pop culture zeitgeist? Like,
Is it obnoxious to say I'd still like to see some exploration of Howard the Duck? Like, I keep hoping. Well, and then I heard Hulu is going to do some kind of show.
Kevin Smith, man.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith's writing a
who I
Howard the
love.
Duck.
If you can trust anybody to put out good comics, it's Kevin.
Now, you did a Top Cow comic that was
I did.
gangbusters, and you're also in Robot Chicken and that whole pop culture world of comics. Is there anything else in the comic space you haven't done you want to do?
The Freshman that I made with Hugh Sterbakoff was something that we had been percolating for a while. I was thrilled to get to make that as a book, and we keep talking about how to exploit it in some other medium, but it's been interesting the way books have evolved since then. There's been so many things that have come out that sort of ran with and improved on. I haven't had a thought of like, oh, I need to see this in comics, so much that I'm gonna do it myself.
I've got a couple Batman ideas. Now, DC Rebirth is recent, and it ties into what they're doing with Doomsday Clock. So this is the jump of Jeff Johns taking over and everything being reborn.
I've read some of this.
Okay, so in the world of DC, I wanted to pull an indie adjacent book. Jinx World is Bendis and Mac doing the covers, and Mac actually doing the inside art. He's a great cover artist, but here he actually takes over the inside, and he draws in two different styles throughout the book. So you've got a penciled style, which is the more narrative, and then you got kabuki actual painting style. This story takes place in the world of Comic-Cons, and he's playing basically an artist who is a spy. So they're using the cover of cons and traveling to have him infiltrate certain investigations.
Fantastic theories.
And you had mentioned a Batman book.
Spider-Man and Batman are my favorite characters. Batman because he's crazy. He's a superhero by choice. He doesn't have any powers. He's just rich. Like, his superpower is being rich and crazy. And I mentioned this Miller book, Year One. You know, his origin story story's been told so many times, but it's really well told here, and it's beautiful. Dave Mazzucchelli does this art, and it's just gorgeous.
Let's check out some more.
Let's do it.
Comic books. Robot Chicken is its own style of animation. We've talked about animation a couple times. Seeing Love, Death, and Robots, Spider-Verse, all these things evolve. How does that change your perspective on animation?
I mean, I love seeing people innovate with both style and aesthetics. It doesn't change my perspective, it just sort of reminds me that you can always be evolving. But Robot Chicken is stop motion, which is a universal format. We try to do things with that format all the time, more in the storytelling and the comedy of it than in the actual physical accomplishment of it. But as technology's evolved, we've been able to try crazier and crazier stuff.
Yeah. Now, directing a feature, which we're definitely gonna lean into now. I gotta know, the cast is crazy. You shot it in Thailand. What was that process like? How'd you like directing live people?
It was the first full-length feature that I've directed, so I definitely learned a lot. I wrote parts for people that I knew would play them very well. So I play a guy who prepaid a second honeymoon for a failing marriage, and on the eve of surprising his wife, discovers she's been having a year-long affair. He scoops his old best friend to take this trip and figure out what to do.
Comic book wise, who's your favorite bromance? It's a movie about bromances. Who are your guys?
Oh, it's Deadpool and Spider-Man. It's like the greatest bromance of all time.
So other bromances I enjoy, I love Foggy and Matt Murdock. Daredevil has had this great resurgence recently. This is the man without fear. The way they take out Daredevil is by instilling him with fear, and he's in the hospital and he's terrified and he doesn't want to get up again. So it's a really different take, and that leads directly into the new run of Daredevil. Each issue ends, once again, we have 1, 3, and 4 because 2 sold out because it's selling very well.
Nice job, guys.
And he writes Daredevil with the darkness of the show, but each issue ends with a cliffhanger. Highly recommend both of these books. Daredevil, Spidey, Batman. We're light and fluffy today. Check them out, guys.
Keeping it optimistic.
Just Shazam happy. So I want to try something new in this episode where we basically have this fun, insane line of comics here. You've been out of the game for a bit, so I want to talk about stuff that you haven't seen.
Okay, what is this Miles book here?
So this is Champions. Champions is a book that's very fighting for the rights of people. It's a very grounded book. They're fighting for people as people. It kind of deals with America right now. It's a very political book. It's a very politically charged book. It gets a lot of people angry in the internet. Yeah.
Look at this cover. This is where we are in culture, that you can have this cover unironically published, and it'll be a top seller.
We've done it. Victory is ours.
I'll take that.
Unicorn's gotta come. So Old Man Logan was
I remember that.
super successful, maybe too successful. So they brought Old Man Hawkeye because Old Man Hawkeye was in the book with Logan. So like, what if it's his story? That sold well. So now they're like, what if everyone gets an Old Man book?
Well, I see Doom on the cover, which obviously gets me interested.
Old Man Hawkeye led into Old Man Quill. So you're finding out this entire universe of Old Man Logan, everyone's story as they find out the Hulks are taking them over, and like it's kind of like Days of Future Past, but for the whole universe.
Okay.
So this book, which I tucked away over there for you, it's the last one. This is the first few issues of West Coast Avengers. The West Coast Avengers, you remember, is always that kind of joke book where you're like, really? They assembled a team of all of those characters of what's happening, and it is going to be Gwenpool, who is having a weird relationship with Quentin Quire of the X-Men. You've got Kate Bishop as Hawkeye, Hawkeye, and it's all told through reality TV lens. So it's them in a house like Real World. This character right here, slightly oversized head, is Brodock. That's right, MODOK as a bro.
Stop it.
Brodock. I mean, I think that's
gonna keep me busy
solid
for a minute.
I mean, I'm sorry.
The pile of stuff to add to my pile.
Let's check out while it weighs 20 pounds.
Fair enough. Oh look, it's my buddy Ryan.
Hey, what's
Hi,
up,
pal.
Seth?
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
you.
You found some comics?
We did quite a bit.
A lot. 193.80.
What? Don't tell my wife.
That's not bad for that much comics.
She did thoroughly endorse this man.
Claire loves me.
All right.
Put that in the bag.
Actually, these are yours now, man.
Thanks,
guys.
man.
All right, let's mosey
on.
on. Let's see what's going on.
Thanks, Coy.
Yeah. This has been another episode of Comic Book Shopping. I'd like to thank Golden Apple Comics. I'd like to thank Seth Green.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, I would like to thank comic books. Go buy some comics. Thanks, guys.